you
Next
guys.
up, we have Joseph Williams from the Carnell Agency. He's an award-winning publicity and creative marketing strategist with over 8 years of experience leading entertainment, publicity, and marketing. Have fun.
Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? So I am a Texas Southern graduate. I attended Texas Southern University from 2005 to 2010. And so I got my degree in public relations, and I always knew that I wanted to work in entertainment. And so after working in corporate America for about 5 years, I decided that I was going to take the leap of faith and move out to LA and pursue that. And so I left LA. I left Houston in 2016, and had one of those Hollywood stories where I moved to my friend's couch, and he let me stay there for like 2.5 weeks, and then within 2.5 weeks, I had my first job at Nickelodeon. And from there, I just kept building and building my resume until today, where I am now the senior manager of communications at OWN, and happy to do so. Can you all hear me? Oh, awesome, good, okay. So I gave you that like brief overview of my background, but I'd love to share with you a presentation so you can kind of see what it is that I do and what we do in PR and entertainment, because I think a lot of people have this view of publicity and entertainment that doesn't always match up with what's going on. So I'm going to share this with you all so you can see exactly what it is publicists do. And all right, can you all see this now? All right. So the really cool thing about publicity is you have a lot of different functions. You have your personal publicist, who would be someone who would be like Cardi B's or Megan Thee Stallion's personal publicists, who they help decide what they're going to do when opportunities are brought to them. Or you may have someone like myself who's worked at an agency and now a network. And if a Cardi B or Megan Thee Stallion or Beyonce or Jay-Z are working on a project on behalf of a movie, a film, or even a soundtrack, then we help bring opportunities to them that fit them speaking about whatever project that they're working on. So one of the things that I did, and I credit TSU for this, is I really had to learn how to be a publicist, even with the resources that they gave me. So that meant going and figuring out which journalists I needed to be in contact with and talk to and speak to in order to be successful at being a publicist. So that was, finding people at the Houston Chronicle when I was in. That might have been finding somebody at Forbes or Essence, whatever it may be. So a perfect example of what helped me to cultivate really great relationships and make me become an award-winning publicist is I worked on a buddy of mine's digital series. And so my buddy James Bland, who was also an HBCU grad, came up with this really amazing series called Giants. And Giants is about 3 creatives that moved to LA to pursue their dreams. And one wants to be a dancer, one wants to be an actor, but they kind of navigate that space. The series did really, really well. Issa Rae ended up picking it up. She put it on her YouTube channel initially, but since then it's been picked up by BET and a host of other networks for distribution. And the really great thing about that is, at the time, Giants was one of only a few digital series that was not attached to a major network or streaming service that was able to not only garner nominations, Daytime Emmy nominations, but also we won 2 Emmys. And so that's something that I'm super proud of. And so when you think about awards campaigns, your awards campaigns are largely driven on not just the content itself, but the publicity efforts around it. So, where are you getting your clients at? How do they become more visible so people even know who they are to vote for them? How do people fall in love with that content? And so that's something that myself and my colleague were able to do really, really well, and something we're still very proud of. And the crazy thing is, I've worked on, and I'll show the things that I've worked on. Out of all the things I've worked on, this show garnered the most Daytime Emmy nominations of any project that I've ever worked on. But I also think that's a credit to people like James, who create authentic storylines and material, and really put their heart into things. So a little bit about like publicity. We talked about the award piece of it. A really big piece of publicity is your overall strategy. It's easy to get certain talent on a certain magazine cover, or even included in a magazine, or to get them an interview. But how does that overall work into what you're trying to accomplish or message about whatever you're working on? So for instance, if you're Megan Thee Stallion and you just released good news, your strategy is around speaking about what good news is about. Why did it come about? How did she work on it? Who did she work with? You might be talking about the body video and the release for that. The strategy is probably your most important piece of whatever you do in PR. You cannot be the best publicist, but if your strategy is succinct and tight, then you will find your way to success, because you may just be speaking about your project with another colleague or someone in the industry. But because your strategy is tight and you've spoken to them, they'll send you people that you can work with and that are interested in working with you to help amplify what it is you're doing. Something that also goes far is networking and publicity. It's so important to know other publicists, to know journalists, and not to just know them, but to be friends. Because then when it comes to that strategy, maybe your strategy isn't as tight as it should be, but because you have the relationships and you're speaking about what it is and you're passionate about it and you really believe in it, you get more people on board to help with that. And so for me, strategy has been vital in what I do. It's resulted in, over 100 million media impressions, and I actually need to update this. It's bad because we just worked on Coming to America, which was one of the biggest films to come out in recent history, but that was well over, I probably double that. I've had projects at CBS that have won awards, Nickelodeon, Netflix, and Apple TV Plus, just to name a few, because of the strategy that we've been able to implement. And I just listed out, when we think about publicity, those earned media placements that I can regularly go to because of the relationships that I've forged. And also at the end of this, I'd love to take questions if you guys have questions and thoughts about publicity and how you network and navigate that. But to that point, whether it was television, or streaming or digital, it could have been Angie Martinez, The Breakfast Club, Central Ave, Good Morning America, The Real, and the Tamron Hall Show are all people that I regularly work with and place clients on. Editorially, I work a lot with Blavity, Essence, Fast Company, Forbes, Rolling Stone, and even Shadow and Act, just to name a few. And so here, I have just a list of different projects that I've been fortunate enough to work on. Something I really don't take for granted, because there aren't a lot of Black publicists that are in the rooms on these projects, and it's something that you'll work really hard to do. But I'd be happy to help anyone who's interested in working in entertainment, specifically television and film, get those opportunities as well. And so one thing that's kind of changed with publicity is understanding it's not just earned media anymore. When you think about your strategy, it's how can I utilize other people to help amplify things. So for me, I say I'm an entertainment uh, publicity professional, but I also have worked on behalf of brands as well, like BLK, the dating app, Bumble. If you saw any of the Bumble campaign where there was like Tiffany Haddish working on talking about why Bumble is important, and other notable influencers. Mario even posted and shared for us. I've even done events for Tinder and activations for Tinder with Director X. Influencer relations can be vital because it can help amplify what you're doing far and beyond what the earned media does these days. We love a placement, we love a cover, but sometimes those covers don't hit the same way as if you get a client to talk about something on an Instagram live or on their YouTube channel, or just their own vertical as well. Another great piece about publicity when you think about it today is the experiential component. You've got to make sure that that campaign is really a 360 campaign. And so this is an example with this picture of some things that I've been able to do. So I had a client and they had this really popular Los Angeles event series called Brunch to Bomb. And one of the things Brunch to Bomb did was, and now they're called We to Bomb. So if you follow them on Instagram, it's WE the number 2 BOMB. Is they brought together, community leaders, DJs, artists, to come to have a great time to fellowship. They had a vendor garden for Black-owned businesses. And so because of that, one of my good buddies, his grandmother is Auntie Maxine. And so Auntie Maxine loved Brunch to Bomb. She had heard a lot about it. And so she pulled up and she came over to brunch one day and she talked to us. She talked to young people about what we could do to get ready for this past election. This picture is pre-COVID, but all of that are things that, lead to success on different campaigns. And so we were happy to have Auntie Maxine. She's been one of the nicest women I've met since I've been in LA. But again, it goes back to that networking of it all, because her grandson and I are friends and colleagues and we've worked together. He understood what we were talking about and believing in. And he trusted us with his grandmother, and she trusted us, and her staff trusted us in order to create really big moments in a campaign. It'd be great to note in that too, Auntie Maxine was kind enough to do interviews with several Black outlets that traditionally may not get that opportunity to sit down and speak with her. In addition, she spoke with the local news, who of course covered it in LA when she came out. Because of COVID, we've had to change how we do things, right? I know Houston may be a little bit more open, but if you're in a New York or Los Angeles and you're working as a publicist, you're not going to be able to do quite as much. So some of the things that we did throughout this time is created digital experiences. So there's a really dope show on ABC called For Life that my team and I had the pleasure of working on. For Life is a show about a formerly incarcerated man who becomes an attorney while he's in jail. And then he starts representing clients. And so what we did is to elevate that show and expose, what the basis of the show was. We held a massive virtual dinner party for people across the country. We were in 4 different cities: Philadelphia, Los Angeles, Atlanta, and New York. But in that, we pulled together chefs who were formerly incarcerated to talk about how they integrated back into society and recidivization that can help people. And we also had talent from the show join that dinner party as well. And so we created this really big moment where we had about 150 different tastemakers, influencers talking about the show all at one time, um, on behalf of this actual event. We've worked with another colleague of mine, Trell, who has the Black Excellence Brunch. And the Black Excellence Brunch usually spotlights a Black creative or even person behind the scenes, and invites them to talk about their craft and what they do. And so we've done digital events with Trell. We've had at least four of them, and we've averaged anywhere from 50 to 65 people. But those people may include Tina Knowles Lawson, who's also been a client. It may include Boris Kojo. It's included a lot of different people, who add a little bit of credibility to what it is that we're doing. And then before COVID, just some pictures and images. Um, we worked on Birds of Prey, doing screenings around the country and after parties with talent to elevate the film. The bottom picture, we worked with Tinder to create this really dope event and experience at New House here in LA, which is a really big venue in Hollywood, to create a photo booth, a portrait studio, a makeup station so folks could get dolled up for their best Tinder profile picture, really to make it an immersive experience. And then I've included my information as I wrap up that component because I love to really just have a dialogue with you all and chat with you all about what it is I do and maybe some of the things I talked about, because I feel like that can also be important and helpful. But here's my email address. My website for the agency is there. If you don't get the email address, you can always hit up the website as well, and we can talk and chat through there. But I'd love to, talk through some of the questions that any of the students and even any of the staff may have, that they feel like could help students. I don't believe in long, boring presentations. I like to get to the meat of it, and then we can go from there. All right. So love to hear some questions and let me know what you all are thinking about and uh, your experiences in PR, what you think PR is, all that kind of stuff. A lot of questions in the chat. Um, so I see Brittany chatted. Hi, Brittany. Can you talk about the specific things I did on campaigns? So one of the things that I'm always going to do on a campaign, um, again, I go back to that one of the first things I said. It starts with strategy. If I have a film that's focused on Black women, then I need to figure out a way to touch and reach as many Black women who would probably amplify and gravitate to a project based on the subject matter and the material. And so that's going to include me figuring out who are the outlets that I should be interacting with, but not only who are the outlets, who are the journalists at those outlets. Because you may have an outlet who may not like a particular style of film. So you don't want to go to that journalist just because they're at that outlet because they could write a negative review. You want to not you don't not include them, but you just make sure that the people that you prioritize in that campaign are journalists that you know are going to enjoy and love and talk about or have an affinity to the type of project that you're working on. Next, you'll look at the tactics. So we know our strategy, we know our overarching themes for the film or the television show or the campaign. And then what we're going to do is look at, okay, what are we going to do in terms of publicity? So covers, editorial, digital and live stream, television. What type of events can we do? Um, all those different things are going to be vital to, what you do to really make that project pop and make it a really big moment. And then from there, in my role, because I don't have to do as many of the tactics anymore. Um, I'll step in if there's a really big thing. If it's a really big campaign and the client really wants me on there, then I will, implement the tactics. I'll reach out to the shows myself. Otherwise, I'll plug my junior publicist and my publicist under me in with a producer or an editorial lead to help out with making sure that we accomplish everything on that project. Did that answer your question? Awesome. And then any other questions? You guys feel free to chime in, throw questions in the chat. Um, and anyone else can pop on. I'd love to chat with you all just a little bit more about publicity, entertainment. Um, how hard was it to get my network job? Whew, this journey to get the network job was something that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done in life. I've been doing what I've been doing now for 10 years. I was working in field publicity in Houston. So what that meant is if there was a movie or a television show and they wanted to come to Houston to figure out the right press, then what I would do is help connect them to the press on the ground so they didn't have to fly out, and I would handle that on behalf of them. And then that's when I went to LA after doing that for several years and working my 9 to 5. Um, but I've interviewed with every major network and streaming service, I'd probably say. But unfortunately, those opportunities aren't as prevalent for people of color. The thing that I think I counted as a blessing is that when they passed me up, they had to come back to me anyway to work on projects because some of the publicists didn't always have that skill set to reach multicultural audiences, but because that's been my background working with Black, Brown, LGBTQ, working on behalf of women, um, that whole intersection as well is where I really found my sweet spot and found success. Um, one of the questions is someone's preparing a project for Cannes Film Festival and they're trying to break into the industry network. I say network, network, network. I'm not sure if you're a filmmaker, but if you're a filmmaker, the best thing that you can do is work with other creatives, whether it be videographers and directors, writers. Those people are really going to be vital to making your projects the best projects that they could possibly be. I won't name drop, but I would just say that any director, producer that I've worked for, and there have been many. Um, they are all networking constantly. They're always working with other young people and other people who know more than them. They're asking their friends to read their material. They're asking for feedback. Um, you know, they are always asking for feedback. Somebody said, feel free to name drop. I mean, Ava DuVernay comes to mind. I was fortunate enough to work on When They See Us. And, I know Ava went through a very long process with what she was doing there. James Bland for Giants comes to mind. Come to mind who have been, eh, who are good at what they do, who win awards, are very recognized, but they don't just count on that alone to get to the next level. What's the best way to prepare for the industry other than having a portfolio? Is there something specific we should have that'll help secure the job? If you're a publicist or you want to be a publicist, Haley, then I think you should be a very good writer, and at least know how to succinctly communicate. So I think there's a lot of theories on what make good publicists. Um, I don't think there's one way. I think it's networking, but I also know that if you can't communicate succinctly to someone, then you kind of shoot yourself in the foot with being successful in publicity, particularly entertainment. Folks are super busy. Um, and so you got to be able to, get somebody's and grab somebody's attention in shoot, sometimes less than 30 seconds. Um, Something that's, not a hard skill, but I really think you got to be kind and know how to really navigate people. I've been fortunate. I haven't met or worked with any mean people, but I have seen and witnessed mean people. And I will say that the people who learn how to deal with each other and talk to and speak to people politely and navigate difficult situations go a lot further than the people who aren't. And we've seen that come to the headlines these days, where people are like, "Oh, this person did this to me and treated me that way," and then they get blackballed and all that good stuff. How did you get into field publicity in Houston? Um, so I really wanted to work in entertainment, Jacory. And so what I did is I started Googling and looking up the agencies that were working on behalf of the films that I wanted to work on. And so I would send them messages to let them know that I'm a publicist on the ground and I could set up a press day for them with their talent. And it was just me constantly hitting these people up. It was me sending them a list of the press that I interact with. It was me setting up those press days and then working to filling in on the back end, which is what you're going to do anyway. As a publicist, is sometimes you have to get the interview secured before you even have talent agree to do them, or you gather the interest rather. And so, kind of a chicken before the egg thing. Um, what do you think is an effective way to get into the industry if you have no connection? I think it is very hard, Tamara, to get into the industry if you have no connection. So, Tamara, I will be your connection until you give me a reason not to be. So you have my email address. Um, and so reach out because you have to be in the know to know what's going on. For example, the agency that I've contracted at, or the agencies that I've contracted at, the majority of my time in LA, those connections came from people who I knew, who at least knew that I was a decent writer, who understood that I understood strategy. And I will put their name on the line for this opportunity. And that is literally how I've gotten there every time. So I don't know that you can be effective and or get into the industry without those connections, because if someone's going to trust you with a film and a big budget and to work with anyone, they've got to really trust you. Um, will COVID change how PR operates? Yes. Bree, publicity is forever changed because of COVID. We have found a way to do junkets, premieres, activations because of COVID, and we had to do it safely because you may see some celebrities who are out and about doing a lot of things, but the vast majority of folks are super safe and at home, and nobody can go in their house, and they don't want to see anybody because they want to be safe and they want to live. And so your talent now really controls the things, because if they tell us they don't want to do something or travel or do something, we got to find a way to make it happen, to bolster a film or work on a project. And we have to, get really creative to find ways to reach people like yourself, and other consumers. DeAndre, on average, how much does it cost to hire a publicist, and do you have to obtain certain requirements in order to obtain service from one? I don't know that there is a typical rate for a publicist. I've seen ranges of $1,500 a month, to I've seen someone charging 10 to 15K a month for their publicist. Um, so it's really going to depend on the type of publicist you need and that publicist's background and qualifications. Um, and also, like, again, that relationship with that publicist. I've been friends with people where I only charge them $1,500 a month on a project. That's not my normal rate, but because I really believed in what they were doing, I charged that much. There have also been times where, in the case of Giants and James, I worked for free because I really just believed in the project. But it's yielded, you know, returns that you can't really put a dollar amount on. But if you're hiring a publicist and you're the talent or work, it's for your project, then you really need to do as much work as the publicist. Because the people that work on behalf of their projects are always super successful. But if you hire a publicist and you think you're just going to sit back and everything's going to just happen, unless your name is Beyonce, that doesn't really happen. Jakara, how did you know this was the field for you? And at what point or event did you know, like, yes, this is for me? Jakara, I don't think that I really realized or knew as much about publicity until maybe even 6 or 7 years into it. So maybe up until about 3 years ago, I was still really learning the very many layers of publicity, field publicity, national publicity, multicultural publicity, digital publicity now. All these different things are like are have what have made me successful and things that I've added to my tool belt. And I knew that I really loved what I was doing. And it really clicked more so than any other time. Probably when I worked on when they see us or Giants. Um, when I worked on Giants, it was telling stories that were layered. In Giants, there's a character who is dealing with depression, and she's a black woman. And you don't get to tell those stories because they never share those stories when they share or amplify a project that has black people centered. I knew that I loved working and doing the work that I do when I was on a set, and a buddy of mine asked me to help. And I was able to meet some of my idols on that set and just have a normal conversation and just talk about life. But it made me want to work on behalf of them even more because they were just like you and I. They have a spotlight that's different, but they were just like you and I really wanted to work on behalf of that. Haley, I also put that I put that email address in the chat as well. Um, Jakar, Houston Young Professionals is a pretty good resource, but a really good resource would be Black Public Relations Society of America. Black Public Relations Society of America is, and they have different iterations in different cities. Will be a really good resource because you can meet other people that look like you, um, have more experience that you can learn and reach across to, and even ping if you have questions. Even though I think I'm pretty decent at my job, I ask and work with a lot of different people. I ask to work with a lot of different people, and I ask questions to a lot of different people to constantly learn about what it is I'm doing, just because um, things are evolving. I may have experiences in one place, but other people may have other experiences that were more successful. Um, and I don't see any other questions. Oh, how do you network in a virtual environment? Slide in those DMs. I was in LinkedIn DMs. I was on Instagram in DMs and still am. I mean, there might be, for instance, there may have been a project I'm working on and I wanted to reach Sweetie. So I go to Sweetie's page. I see the people, I go to the box that tells you who tagged her.
and it may have been her publicist. Well, I reached out to Sweetie's publicist to tag her, and she did something on clause for us. Or, it could have been any number of ways, or it could have been an influencer where I was like, oh, I really would love for them to do something on behalf of the project, but I never met them. I've never had a chance to work with them. And so I'll slide in those DMs. It could be you sliding in a DM of someone who works as a publicist or at an agency that you want to work at, and you want to ask them questions, and so that you can do that as well. And then there's another Q&A. Haley, when breaking into PR, what's the most important role to play? Haley, I think if you're breaking into PR, the most important thing that you can do is to start as an assistant. Because if you start as an assistant, you're going to learn why clips are so important. You're going to learn how to measure success of your campaign. You're going to learn who the journalists are that you need to work with on behalf of certain things, whether that be a music project, a television film, a brand project, if it's not even entertainment. And so those things are important. So you start as an assistant or even an intern, and you work your way up. Most of us have started at an assistant. My first assistant job in PR was working with the Houston Dynamo. But in that job, I didn't just run press conferences and work in the booth during the games or the matches. But I was also there for promo events. So having to go set up at a Target or a Kroger's at 7 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, and pass out whatever. You do it all. And that's really a part of publicity that people don't see is, yes, I'm on red carpets, and yes, I get to travel and I get to do all these nice things. But if it's my event, then I'm also going to be working that carpet to make sure it's timely, it's efficient. I'm going to be setting up. I set up things all the time at my events and work with the interns that I work with or the staff that we hired to make sure things are a certain kind of way based on what we're trying to accomplish. So you start at the ground level, get in where you can fit in, volunteer, intern, and go from there and keep working your way up. What is preparation and work hours like on a project? So I don't want to scare y'all off, but the preparation is a lot. Um, for instance, on a project, one thing I'll do with our team is we're going to brainstorm on projects before we present our strategy and what we're going to do. And that may take a couple of hours. But then after that couple of hours, we're going to branch out and assign different tasks and things to different people. So I'll come up with a strategy. I've thrown in some tactics, but we're going to talk through those strategies and those tactics as a team because I may have experience, but as a black gay man, I may not understand what it's like to be a straight black woman. So what'll happen is I'm gonna definitely speak to and listen to and implement the things that those straight black women um, are saying into that campaign because they know better than me what their experiences are. And so what we'll do then is we'll find ways to integrate, things that aren't top line to someone's front of mind on what we should be paying attention to and talking points that we should implement. Um, and so I would say that on average during a busy season like award season, it's easy to work 60 hours a week. 10-hour days are not crazy. 12-hour days are not crazy. It's not really a 9 to 5 job. So if you want to come in at 9 o'clock and leave at 5, you can do that. You will probably be an assistant or an intern for a very long time. Because a lot of that work that you're able to accomplish happens after hours, when the phones are not ringing, when your email is now a little bit quieter. and when nobody is tapping you on your desk for a question every 5 minutes. If I may ask, have you ever experienced spurts of depression in your career? If not, what would you advise for someone who may deal with that along their journey? Jakar, this is probably my favorite question today. Depression is very real in the space that we work in. Something that my tribe and my community of publicists, who I think are a lot better than I am, and I talk about, is the fact that we have to go to therapy, because in publicity, you're going to get a lot of no's. Um, I have had like some of the biggest stars turned down for magazine covers or interviews, and those no's really stung because I'm like, well, I know I did my job, or I think I did my job, but why aren't they picking this person, and why aren't they doing this? And then you're going to have other people who you work with who are going to question, well, shouldn't, and I'm just throwing out a name, shouldn't Good Day Joseph want Jakara on the show? Um, but you have to also understand that there's nuance, and you got to ask questions and dig deeper to those no's, and you got to figure out why are you getting those no's. But then also, most importantly, is do not take that personal. You don't have to. You're not always going to get a yes. That's okay. Um, but yeah, just keep plugging along, but also definitely find a good therapist if you're going to work in entertainment, because the long hours, the difficult conversations you have to have, and the difficult predicaments that you may find yourself in, you need to find a way to keep your moral compass aligned with who you want to be and who you strive to be. Um, Ja'Cory, what agencies would you recommend that are based in Houston? Ja'Cory, the unfortunate news is there's not a ton of agencies that are in Houston, that are in entertainment. But I would suggest, one that comes to mind, Allied Moxie. Allied Moxie, they do a lot of different publicity, field, national, multicultural. But I would check out Allied Moxie because they're very important. I've had several friends that work there who now are at Netflix, who are at NBC Universal. Um, they're everywhere because of that. And thank you, Raquel. Yes. So tell us how PR has reached out to HBCUs. Love this question too. So one of the great things is when you work at an agency, you work on a lot of different projects, and you have a lot more range to do a lot more things and try a few more things. And so, unfortunately, but fortunately, um, people are just now starting to see the importance of HBCUs. That's the unfortunate piece, because we've always been amazing. I don't know an HBCU graduate that I know that I graduated with that is not excellent, and enterprising. But now studios are asking, how can we reach HBCU students and how can we incorporate them? And so one of the ways that our team has specifically reached out to HBCU students and HBCUs is to make sure that we give young journalists an opportunity at HBCUs, to interview talent. So on Soul with Jamie Foxx, we got Jamie with, I think, 9 or 10 different students, and he had a conversation about the film and let them interview him. Um, and that was really exciting because Jamie Foxx is a really big star, but he wanted to speak to students when we told him about the opportunity. And so that's one way we did it. On Coming to America, we gave away products and then provided interview opportunities. But then we also, for example, gave TSU a Coming to America Zamunda flag to fly at the school. And so we find different ways to interact. We send mailers to students. We give opportunities for students to participate in that way as well. Kimberly. or Kimberlyn, sorry. What did you learn at TSU that you apply to your career today? So, there's a couple good things that I learned at TSU. Actually, there's a lot. The importance of your network. Those people that I met at TSU are the people I still speak with today, that I still root for, that I can still ask questions to, and vice versa. Um, that's one thing. The second thing is Professor Sandifer Walker talked a lot about the importance of Twitter, and I'm older, and so I've been out of school now 11 years. But imagine learning about the importance of Twitter in your space in media and publicity 11 years ago. So you even learned how to interact with the platform well before it takes off. And she talked a lot about, excuse me, she talked a lot about the importance of utilizing social media. And so I really understanding that, excuse me, was vital. Um, and so that's something that I definitely took to heart and learned. And then it would also be working with Professor Randall on learning things like how to code and just adding things to my tool belt, because what nobody tells you in publicity is, yes, you're getting interviews, yes, you're on a carpet, yes, you're working with your favorite celebrity or talent, right? But I've had to create flyers. Um, I've had to create micro websites. I've had to learn how to create invitation pages. I've had to learn all these different things and do them at different points of my career in order to get a project to the finish line, because we may have not had the resources to pay somebody or to hire somebody. And so those are things that, I learned at TSU, which I go back to the HBCUs. We learn how to be excellent very early on. So don't take any of what you learn for granted. And Raquel, thank you for that acknowledgement. That really means a lot. I'm happy to actually speak to you all. What was the name of the agency again? It was Allied Moxie, but I'm going to give you the names of several agencies that I'm going to put in the chat that I think are all great agencies that you should work at. And actually, even if you do this, if you email me and you want a list of agencies, not only will I send you the list, but if you're interested in internships, I will connect you with the people that can potentially hire you for internships, because a lot of those folks are my friends. And I know another person came on as a moderator. I think it was Dr. Richard. But if anyone has any questions or anyone wants to chat through anything else, let me know. How many people work on your team, and do you outsource? It depends on my project. Right now, I'm actually transitioning my agency and trying to figure that out. My personal agency, because I'm going to be working with the Oprah Winfrey Network and Harpo starting on the 30th. So that could be anywhere from 3 to 4 people just on my personal team. At the agency that I most recently worked at a lot as well, I worked on a team of about 20 people. So it was myself, a director. We had 4 publicists, and then after that, um, we had a junior publicist, an events person, and then also I worked on behalf of influencer relations and promotions as well. But those to that point, you'll need that many people on a big project like a Coming to America, Judas and the Black Messiah, a Billie Holiday movie. All those are films that we worked on where we really needed that staff for that. What skills are you looking for within your agency? Creativity, people who don't accept no for an answer in terms of if someone told them no, they're still going to find a way to make something successful. People who will look for a way to become successful. Um, Sometimes people get really defeated because, something doesn't work out a certain kind of way. So I always love people who Google stuff on their own before they ask a question and then ask the question if they don't understand it. Because if you try to understand something for yourself, and then you bring that to the table and you show that, and then if you still don't understand and you ask questions, we can have a different conversation as opposed to me having to teach you something that you could have read in 5 minutes. Um, I have a lot of respect for those people who go and search for the information for themselves because that is so vital and important. And what we do is a client may ask you something. You don't have to have the answer, but you have to go look it up so that you can have a discussion about it because the expectation may be is that, oh, okay, hey, we I saw this film do this on this campaign. How can we do something similar but not exactly like that but fun in our own style? And so that's important. Raquel, what opportunities are available for internships or shadowing experiences for students? Internships, and they're always available. Even more so now, again, because people realize the importance of HBCUs. There are a ton of internships at a ton of different places. Um, Google, something that you can do is if you want to work on behalf of Black and Brown people, LGBTQ people, Asian communities, if you're biracial and you're at the intersection of those communities, um, is work at a multicultural agency. Multicultural publicity is a thing. And I think we're getting to the point where it may phase out in the next 5 years. But if you bring in that skill set and that experience and that background, you'll be very valuable because when you're sitting at a table with anyone else who doesn't understand that, then you'll be able to say, this is what I know has worked on behalf of campaigns that center Black stories, Asian stories, Hispanic stories, LGBTQ stories, because I've worked on these 15, 20, 30, 40 campaigns where we elevated and amplified and worked on behalf of those voices. Oh, and I'm sorry, Dr. Brown. I just saw Raquel. I didn't know that was you, Dr. Brown. So hopefully I answered that question for you as well. All right. So um, I think I've answered a lot of questions, but let me know if there's any more. I got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Um, and so I'm happy I've had a chance to chat with everyone. Once again, my name is Joseph Williams. My agency is the Carnell Agency. And you can email me again at info at thecarnellagency.com. That's THECARNELL agency agency.com. And I'm happy to chat with you all, happy to talk through anything else. Kimberly, okay, what's your hardest thing you have experienced during COVID trying to work on new projects? If I'm honest, the hardest thing I think is when you work in publicity, you have to consume a lot of media. And so it is never lost on me anytime I see one of our Black or brown folks get murdered or hurt. And so, it's really hard some days to go to work um, and talk about things that aren't as important as your lives. Um, with people who may not be as tapped in as they should be. That's difficult for me, because I'm not, just because I'm not in Houston, Texas. That ice storm affected me because my family is in Houston, Texas. My godchildren, my best friends, my mother, my grandmother. Um, the I don't even if there's ever a video now with a black or a brown person, and even what we've heard about the Asian folks and our Asian brothers and sisters. Um, I don't even watch and consume a lot of that, just because it does. I don't handle that kind of stuff well, because I care about people, and so those things are very important to me. And so those are probably the toughest things to deal with during COVID, because sometimes people aren't as tapped in as they should be to what's really important, and that's human life, and what people are experiencing past a film that may not even be rooted in the truth, or a television show that may not be rooted in the truth. And so those are things that yeah have been tough during COVID. But maybe a work-life balance, because sometimes I roll over, grab my laptop, and start working before I've had breakfast, and then I look up and I haven't had dinner, and it's 10 o'clock. So that might be the only other thing, is finding a work-life balance. But I'm grateful to be working. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Again, it's been a pleasure. Finally going to wrap up now. I sound like one of those preachers that's like, all right, I'm gonna go, but I keep going. So thank you all so much for your time, and I look forward to networking with you all. Look me up on LinkedIn, or again, hit me up via email. You all have a good day.